Keep using my clockwork method to continue to refine your vector building skills. Now that your anchor points have reported for duty, you need to scrutinize their position to make sure they're in their correct PPP. Do you understand me, designer?
Sir, what is PPP, sir?
FYI, I'm the one asking the questions, thank you very much. PPP is the prime point placement, and I want you to make sure that the PPP in your work is accurate. Do I make myself clear, designer?
Sir, yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Welcome to Vector Basic Training. This is the prime point placement video, and we're going to go over what I consider to be the partner of the clockwork method, because basically you can't separate the two. The clockwork method and prime point placement go hand in hand. When you're using the clockwork method in order to look at any shape, any form that you've drawn out, in this case this flaming bird you see on screen, you'll use the clockwork method to discern where to place your anchor point placements, where to lay your anchor points down. The prime point placement is going into those anchor point locations and making sure they're the exact position they need to be in order to get the shape you need when you're building your vector path. You might have to move those. You might have to bump them over a little bit, or scoot them this way or move them that way in order to facilitate the final art you need to create. That's okay. It's a process. You're constantly refining, constantly improving, and prime point placement is just your way of holding yourself accountable and checking the anchor point locations you've set down to make sure that they're in their correct positioning. If you're having a hard time forming a path, more than likely you didn't nail the prime point placement. So go back, review where you put your anchor points down, and move them around if you have to. If you're not sure, move it, try it in a different location. If that's not working, then move it around until you find the location that works. You will find it. It is there. There is only certain ways to build certain curves, so just experiment. The clockwork method, like I said, will get you in the right neighborhood, and the prime point placement is the specific house on that street that you need to be at. So let's get started. We're just anywhere in your art, once again, that comes to a point will get a point. So we're going to start with the beak, and we're just gonna start building our vector shape. So I'm recording these screencasts out of my home studio here in the land of Bigfoot, Pacific Northwest, and my family's out of the house today, so they won't make any noise. And of course, the day I go to start recording, the neighbor's dog starts barking, a crow lands in the front yard on the tree, just starts squawking, and the neighbor decides this would be a good day to stay home and use a belt sander to sand some kind of wood project in his garage, which is literally about 6 feet away from where I'm sitting. And I was just like, great. But now all that sound's gone, so we don't have to worry about it. So I've laid out, using the clockwork method, the rough build for this piece of artwork. So this is where I placed all my anchor points. Now I'm going to go in using the Extreme Path Segment Direct Edit tool, and we'll just grab the path and start bending it and forming it like clay to more closely match the underlying drawing. We're not worrying about dialing in the path completely at this stage. It's just pushing it closer to the final form we want to get. It's a process. We'll continue to refine and perfect it in the next couple of stages after this. This is just to move us in the right direction now. So So as you work, at this point, the prime point placement will come into, I'm showing you the complete process. We're not just jumping into the stage with the prime point placement. I want you to understand how all these things relate to the greater context of building a project. So we start from the beginning. And like I stated in the other videos, that many of these processes and methods overlap and interrelate with one another. And so I think it's important to see how they do so. You know, why you want to do something and when you want to do it, I think is as important as learning how to do it. So you can learn how to do something, but if you don't apply it at the right time, then it really doesn't do a whole lot of good. So this is the massaging of the shape now using the Extreme Path plugin. Literally grab anywhere on the path and just start to bend it and form it to more closely match the underlying drawing. Now that we have this done, we're just going to grab the direct selection tool, and we're going to select all the anchor points in this path that need to be smooth anchor points. Meaning the anchor point, the Bezier curve needs to transition from one side of the anchor point to the other side of the anchor point, forming a nice, elegant curve. So with all those selected, then we go up to the control panel and we click on Convert Selected Anchor Points to Smooth, and that fixes all of our curves that we've broken by forming and pushing the path in order to shape it to begin with. So now we're getting closer. It looks a little better now. But it's at this stage you want to start using the prime point placement. This is when you want to scrutinize where you placed your anchor points. So we're just going to zoom in a little bit, and we'll focus on this left hand wing right here. And we're going to finesse these paths. Now, in the book, I talk about if you overextend your handles, you tend to get this flatness that you see here in this shape. This is a telltale sign that your prime point placement isn't correct because you're having to overextend your handle in order to form this curve. So it would be better to move this location from here to, I'm going to try right about here. I think this will give us a more accurate curve when it's all said and done, and not only more accurate, it'll be accurate from the standpoint of it aesthetically looking better. That's what we're after. And this one I think should move to right about here. We're close. We weren't like way far off, but we were far enough off that it's not going to help us get that elegant, free-flowing shape that we're after. So you can see how this curve is starting to look, and I think this can even go over just a little more. So it's a process. You're continually trying to refine your work. You're trying to improve it as you go along. And if you try something and it doesn't improve it and it doesn't look good, then just that's where Command Z comes in. No big deal. Don't worry about it. They wouldn't have put Command Z in the software if people didn't make mistakes. I often wish I had Command Z for, reality. Okay, so we're going to scrutinize another placement. We're going to look at this one, see if we got this one right. So we'll pull out the corresponding Bezier handles on each end of this form. And I think this one would look better if we move it a little that way. And there's one aspect of building, it's hard to talk about, it's hard to even try to demonstrate or teach for that matter, and that is how do you know when you're done? You know, I've been asked that question. Well, how do you know when you're done? Well, I know when I'm done when I know it feels right. And right now, this curve from this point to this point isn't feeling right. Something about this is wrong. Whenever that happens, don't ignore it. This is telling me there's something here that's not quite right, and I think I know what the problem is. The problem is I don't need this point. I'm trying to create a shape with too many points. So what I'm going to do, and this is also an opportunity for me to bring in another tool called the Better Handles plugin, because what I want to do is I want to remove this point, but I don't want to destroy my shape. I want it to somewhat retain the shape. Well, if I did it in Illustrator and I use the remove selected anchor point in the control panel, this is what happens. That's okay, it's not a big deal. I can grab these handles and adjust it, but I don't need to do that. I can select that same anchor point, and using the Smart Remove point from the Better Handles plugin palette, look, it almost gives me the shape I'm after. And all I need to do is just ever so slightly adjust this Bezier curve, and we're done. So just a quick shout out, like I said, all these things interrelate and overlap in terms of the methodology of building shapes. So the Better Handles plugin is a great plugin. Make sure to watch that in the other video. So let's slide that out of here and continue to scrutinize the anchor point placements and adjust the PPP if we need to. This one I think is pretty good. I don't think we're going to need to adjust this. So we'll move on to this one. That one looks pretty good. I think we're going to have to slide this one down. So I hope you're getting an idea of how the clockwork method helps you to discern the initial placement, how PPP plays a part in really dialing in precisely that placement. They work hand in hand. The clockwork method is basically to help you get going and to start building the shape. PPP is really going to help you tighten it, to pull it in, lock it up, and really make your art precise and elegant and the way it needs to be in order to create the form you're trying to create. So we're just going to continue going around. And building this shape, and I think this one would be better if we move this over. Yeah, I think that works better. It's hugging the line too much. A lot of these things I'm just making offhanded comments, such as hugging the line. I kind of go into that in one of the chapters of the books. I think it's the chapter all about points. Should probably have that memorized if I'm doing videos of it, shouldn't I? Sorry about that. So I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to just continue refining this and scrutinizing our anchor point placements. So overall, so far, I think we only had 4 or 5 anchor points that really needed a lot of massaging. So that's, this one's still bugging me, so I'm pretty anal with this stuff, but I think it's important. We're graphic designers. You know, I'm sure an engineer is anal about their designs, probably even more so since lives depend on that stuff. You know, I don't think anybody's going to die. This is starting to look flat now that I look at it. So I think this needs some work. So I'm going to pull these in. Sometimes it just takes time not looking at something. So once again, another aspect of the creative process. what I call the fresh eyes effect. If you can set something aside, even if it's on a project you're working on, go build another part of your design, then come back and look at this, and it'll help you notice things you might not have picked up on at first glance. And that's great. That's all about art directing yourself. So that's what you want to do. You want to scrutinize your own work. You want to be your worst critic. And you want to produce the best work as possible. Okay, I think I know what the problem is. The problem is, I think this is in the wrong location. I think we're going to try it there. Hardest part about doing a video is I never demonstrate this stuff. I just kind of do it. And so a video is somewhat intimidating because I feel like somebody's standing behind me going, okay, hurry up, do it, get it done. You know, you can't just let the recording go on and on and on. So, okay, that looks a lot better. And I think I'm going to adjust this a little more. If you can see me right now, I'm like tilting my head to, my neck just popped. So I can analyze a curve. And this is where I really wish it'd be nice in Illustrator if you could rotate the artboard, because sometimes I just like to see a curve at a different angle in order to analyze it from a new perspective, and it helps. And when I do that, I can figure out where I need to make the Bezier curve adjustments. So I think that looks pretty good. Looks a lot better than what it was, so we'll leave that alone. And we'll move on to this little shape. And this is a pretty simple little whiff of a flame. And I think our anchor point placements were fine. And so we're gonna zoom out, and like any good cooking show would have, we've already pre-baked this, so you can see what the final art looks like. So that's the prime point placement. That's how it relates with the clockwork method. They go hand in hand. So you'll want to utilize them in order to create precision graphics. I hope this helped. I hope this helps to demystify the whole vector building process. I look forward to seeing how people use these methods, and continue to check out the rest of the videos on the DVD. Thank you for watching.